Good morning. My name is Mel. I'm from UNESCO Bangkok. On behalf of UNESCO Bangkok's ICT and Education team, I'd like to thank AACE for inviting us to come over and present our policy review on digital citizenship in the Asia-Pacific region. Okay, so we know that ICT provides us with so many different affordances, right? ICT is being used for access, to provide participation opportunities for different people. And in 2015, the uptake of ICT is almost 7 billion mobile phone subscriptions all over the world. That's 97% of the entire world. Okay? And in fact, the recent SDG 4, or the Sustainable Development Goals 4, which focuses on education, listed ICT skills as one of the necessary skills that citizens have to have in order to succeed in this globalized and knowledge-based economy. Okay? And information literacy was also highlighted in the Qingdao Declaration. If you're not familiar with the Qingdao Declaration, it's the ICT in Education Declaration that came right after the adoption of the Education 2030 goals and targets. Children has been given a big role in terms of the ICT uptake in the world. ITU, or the International Telecommunications Union, estimates that 18% of the Asia-Pacific population is composed of youth, but then that 18% would comprise 30% of the internet users within the region. Okay. And so, because of this, they are the key drivers in terms of ICT use and how ICT evolves within the region. For children and youth, there are now unclear boundaries between being offline and online. I am sure that it's happening worldwide. And ICT is also becoming more personalized and private with the use of mobile technologies. Okay? So mobile technologies allow children to use their tablets now in the room without parental supervision. They can bring it anywhere. Okay? They can surf to any site that they want. Okay? And the main uses of ICT among the children and young people were found to be entertainment, socialization, education, and taking action on important issues. EU Kids Online, a very popular study on digital citizenship conducted in Europe, listed the different types of opportunities that ICT provides to young children, okay? Young children and youth all over the world. But at the same time, EU Kids Online listed the different risks also that are facing our children and youth in terms of ICT use. Okay? And these risks are not just happening in the Western countries, but they're very prevalent in the Asia-Pacific region as well. Some examples would be from India, where youth are not aware of positive practices of internet use, cybercrime issues, so on and so forth. Cyberbullying is a big thing in China, Singapore, and India. Vietnam reported that cyberbullying is a big issue as well in their country. In Korea, 2% of youth aged 10 to 19, or about 125,000 people, needed treatment for excessive online gaming. Okay. Brunei also reported cases of having perpetrators online, okay, causing crimes, different crimes, and more specifically rape. Tajikistan mentioned ICT use in radicalization. Okay. And the Philippines is now well known for sex trafficking through ICT use. Okay, so all these risks are happening right now in Asia Pacific. And member states have been approaching us to ask what to do about these risks that they're facing. Do we provide total freedom to our children and youth in terms of ICT use, or do we restrict the use of ICT among the children and youth? Now, the main thing that we'd like to propose, as well as EU Kids Online and other organizations worldwide, is that there should be a careful balancing act between providing opportunities as well as preparing our kids to mitigate the risks that they face with the use of ICT, thereby building resiliency among our citizens, among our youth. Okay. So what we're proposing is to provide citizens, our young citizens, with competencies that will allow them to make use of ICT safely, effectively, and responsibly. And this is the main context of the project that we're working on right now, which looks at fostering digital citizenship in the region through the use of ICT safely, effectively, and responsibly. The main goal is to provide our governments, our member states, with guidelines and guidelines on creating policies and developing programs that will be able to address these concerns in their respective countries. We started off with a mapping activity of the different initiatives being done worldwide, and what we saw is that digital citizenship is very much a popular thing here in the Western countries, but then in Asia Pacific, it's an emerging concept. Everybody wants to talk about digital citizenship, but they really have no idea what it's all about. Okay. We also conducted a regional consultation among Asia Pacific stakeholders in terms of looking into this topic. And the main thing that I'd like to discuss in this presentation is the policy review that we conducted among different Asia Pacific member states. Just to give you an idea, UNESCO Bangkok covers 46 Asia Pacific member states across 5 sub-regions, namely Central Asia, South and West Asia, East Asia, Southeast Asia, and the Pacific. Okay. And we made use of a provisional definition for digital citizenship because right now there is no universally accepted or agreed upon definition for digital citizenship. Okay. The main idea is that we'd like to find out if governments in the region have created a conducive environment so that our young generation can become safe, effective, and responsible users of ICT. Support was given by Intel, and the survey was conducted from May to August 2015. Okay. The main instrument was a self-report survey that were filled up by officially designated representatives from 22 member states out of the 46 that we have. Okay. We also looked into different country cases and online literature to supplement the survey results. The focus was on the education sector because UNESCO focuses on assisting governments in the education sector. And we looked at 3 research categories: leadership and accountability, education, and infrastructure in schools. And we made use of the following response system mechanism. Okay, so we looked at different levels of policy. Level 0 would be there's no policy. I'm sorry for the error. Level 1 would be policies in place but not implemented. Level 2 would be policies implemented. Level 3 would be policy implemented and is subject to monitoring and evaluation. The age groups that we looked at would be cut up into three: 0 to 8, 9 to 12, and 13 to 18. This would cover the definition of children under the UN category. Okay. Survey items, we covered 121 survey items and supplemented by 11 short answer items. The major limitations of the study was that it was a self-report. We didn't really have enough resources to gather additional evidences. So additional research would have to be done in order to get more details about the results. Okay. We focused on national level policies without really looking into state level or school level implementation. Again, this would be part of the next round of research. Okay. Just to give you an idea, to give a context about the Asia-Pacific region in terms of ICT, as you can see, ICT development in the region is below the average in the world. Okay. It's not too far below, okay, but then it's still below the average of the in the world. And if you'll notice from the second graph, the range of ICT development in the region is quite big. Okay. So we have countries like Korea, Singapore, who are very much ICT developed, in Australia and in other countries. But then we also have the other extreme, okay, the other developing countries or least developed countries who have not really implemented ICT policies or haven't really gotten into the ICT bandwagon yet. Okay. So in terms of leadership and accountability, these are what we found out. Okay. Member states who responded to the survey generally involve multi-sector approach, a multi-sector approach in terms of developing policies on digital citizenship. Okay. But the focus is more on cybersecurity and law enforcement. Okay. Education takes a third level, and then health professionals are not really involved. Another thing that we found out is that member states do not really have coordinating agencies in terms of digital citizenship, of looking into digital citizenship in their own respective countries. And research is not really being done, okay, about this topic. So 55% of participating countries do not have any of these elements. Okay. No coordinating agency, no national budget provided, no research, no assessment program being deployed. Okay. And national campaigns are only done in 40% of the 22 countries. So just to summarize in terms of leadership and accountability, if you'll notice, there's a wide range again in terms of policy maturity, in terms of national policies and campaigns among participating countries. Multi-sector approach is being used, okay, but again, it's focused on enforcement and security. There's a lack of policy measures for a more systematic national approach, okay, for the countries that responded to the survey. Now, in terms of the second category, or education, what we looked at was mixture or combination of opportunity-oriented policies as well as risk-preventive policies. Okay. And as I mentioned a while ago, we looked at different age groups and different maturity levels as well. To give a context on education, I'd like to discuss this particular diagram with you. This is the ladder of opportunities that was promoted by the EU Kids Online. If you'll notice, the bottom part is more or less the basic use of ICT among children. Okay? And then when you go up the pyramid, it gets more complicated, gets more complex. Okay? So children would make use of online videos. The next level would be make use of ICT to communicate. The next level would be make use of ICT to interact, okay, and play with others, download files, share content. And the highest level would be file sharing and blogging and participating in virtual worlds. Okay. This is the context by which we analyze the education category. Now, in terms of providing basic ICT literacy skills to students, Asia-Pacific countries, those who participated, provide training on ICT skills to children. Okay. But then when you look at the higher levels of ICT use, Asia-Pacific countries rarely provide these kinds of training to students. So what do I mean by this? The different member states usually provide technical training. So for example, making use of productivity tools like Microsoft Word, PowerPoint, the browser. Okay? But then they don't really provide any curriculum resources or training time to teach these students on how to analyze and evaluate information that they gather from the internet. Okay. So the basic technical skills are there, but the higher level skills are not yet there. Okay. Okay. So there's a need to promote more cyber wellness related issues and curriculum resources among our students in the Asia-Pacific region. Not only through different subject areas in the curriculum, but also through extracurricular activities. In terms of policy on use of student-owned devices at schools, this I think is very much a concern. I've heard of different presentations about one-to-one computing, BYOD, but in the Asia-Pacific countries, more than half of the surveyed member states do not have a policy or have not implemented policies to promote the use of student-owned devices. So students are not usually allowed to bring in even their mobile phones in the classroom. Okay, it's still a big issue among Asia-Pacific countries. Let's look at the teachers this time. Okay. In terms of pre-service, only a few, well, 30 to 43% of participating countries have provisions to train pre-service teachers on ICT literacy, cyber wellness, and cybersecurity. Okay. For in-service teacher training, they usually look into, again, basic ICT literacy skills. So they teach teachers, or they train teachers on how to use ICT, okay? Again, in terms of using Microsoft Word or open source software, browsing the internet, okay? But in terms of the more complicated use of ICT in the classroom, in the teaching and learning process, only a few programs are there, okay, in the Asia-Pacific countries. And the focus for these ICT pedagogy integration courses would be on secondary level teachers. Okay. Educational sessions for the school community is also lacking. Okay, what do I mean by school community? So training parents, training caregivers, because there are a lot of nannies also in the Asia-Pacific countries. They don't really provide these kinds of trainings to these particular people in the community. Okay, member states, if you'll notice from this graph, member states promote adult mediation in terms of filtering content. Okay. If there is any training involved among adults, adult caregivers, it would be more focusing on filtering content, okay, in the internet. Okay. And it's quite interesting to note that content filtering is more significant among the 3 age groups, even more prominent than teacher training on cyber wellness and cybersecurity. So instead of teaching our teachers or training our teachers on how to evaluate information more effectively, they promote more on regulating the content. okay, or filtering, okay, or censorship. Now, if we look at the opportunity-oriented and risk-preventive policies among the different countries in the Asia-Pacific region, it's a relief to note that around one-half have a balanced approach across participating countries in terms of providing opportunities and providing policies that look at risks. Okay. If we look at the following graphs, okay, so for example, a country like Uzbekistan would have policies on opportunities, providing opportunities to our children, but they would also have policies in terms of mitigating risks. Now, the different countries would have different levels for opportunities versus risk, depending on their particular context and their particular values. So for example, Brunei, okay, would have equal levels of opportunity and risks for the 3 age levels. Okay. But for the secondary level, if you'll notice, Australia is more concerned about the risks, okay, rather than the opportunities in terms of national policies. Okay. Now, these two graphs show us, in terms of the age group, which are being focused at by the different member states. The green round icon would refer to the 13 to 18 age group. If you'll notice, most of the member states focus their efforts on this particular age group. So again, in terms of policy readiness in education, there's a very diverse range of maturity among the different survey respondents. Bangladesh and Uzbekistan were quite surprising for us because they're not really high in terms of ICT development, and they're not really in terms of level income, they do not belong to the high level income. But then in terms of digital citizenship policies, they are very much active. And what we saw from the results is that there's a need for programs that target more sophisticated ICT skills. As I mentioned, we're trying to encourage member states to not stop only at basic ICT literacy skills. What our children would need to be trained on would be how to evaluate information, how to conduct research, making use of ICT, how to communicate and collaborate using ICT as well. Okay. And there's also an observed lack of policies for children in the 0 to 8 years old age group. Okay. In terms of school infrastructure, in general, a lot of the member states provide infrastructure to schools, but then there's still an inadequate level of minimum bandwidth requirement for schools. And again, the policies are focusing very much on secondary level schools. As I mentioned a while ago, a lot of these schools do not allow students to bring their own student-owned devices. Almost 2/3 do not have a policy on this one. So we're thinking that this might be a missed opportunity for these member states in terms of ICT integration into the classroom setting. Okay, network security and audit of school systems is also problematic, okay, in most of the member states that responded. On average, 2/3 of the school-based ICT systems are vulnerable to malicious activities, okay, because they don't have the proper security protocols and audit mechanisms. But when we look at content filtering, again, member states take this as a very necessary step, shown by the results that 85% of the participating member states filter inappropriate content or have monitoring systems at the different levels. In terms of assessment and M&E, most of the participating countries have the basic system for data collection, but these data collection systems are not being used to monitor cyber wellness implementation in schools. So technical infrastructure, again, there's a diverse range of maturity, and there's a huge gap that exists in infrastructure provision, especially for the youngest age group. Okay. Content filtering is seen as a necessity, but security provisions are still inadequate. So in terms of key findings, if you look at the overall policy maturity, as mentioned a while ago, again, there's a diverse range of maturity. And this set of results is impetus for us to look into the results further. We'd like to look into why Singapore has a very high level of policy maturity compared to Bhutan, okay? And why probably Australia, which we are expecting to score very highly in policy maturity, is very much in the middle level. Okay, so there's another key finding that we saw was that there's a strong connection between income levels and policy maturity in the different research categories that we looked into. So just to summarize the key findings, okay, member states recognize the importance of equipping children with the basic ICT skills and providing them with the corresponding basic infrastructure. Policies that balance promoting opportunities and minimizing risk exist. Okay. And most of the member states use a multi-sector approach. But then teachers and children are not adequately trained on more complex ICT skills. And too little focus is given to the youngest age group. Another set of key findings would be lack of security measures for these member states, and content blocking and restrictions are still widely used in the Asia-Pacific region as a measure. There's a major lack of research in this area within the Asia-Pacific region, and more so, there's a lack of monitoring and evaluation of programs if ever they do exist. So what do we recommend to our member states is that they continue on working with multi-stakeholders and multi-sectors in terms of policy development and implementation, but they also should provide the necessary resources, meaning budget and agency, coordinating agency, to make this happen in their respective context. There have to be more policies that would foster digital citizenship, okay, especially in the education sector. Basic ICT skills should start from the very young ages, especially now that ICT is ubiquitous already, that even your toddler child would be able to know, would be able to use a tablet already on his own. Okay. More sophisticated ICT skills are needed, okay, not only by children but also by teachers as well as adult caregivers, so that they can succeed in this digital world. Digital citizenship should be part of teacher competency standards, as what we've been promoting in another project that we're conducting with our member states. Appropriate education and technical infrastructure should be provided from the early years. Research, monitoring, and evaluation would have to be given priority as well to provide evidences so that member states would know how to intervene more properly and effectively. And programs and initiatives should be adapted to local contexts. We would like to promote values and skills development in terms of digital citizenship. We have what we call media and information literacy. We'd like to promote the values of respect, compassion, and discipline. Google came up with a study on digital resilience, and they're trying to develop metrics and curriculum resources on how this can be developed in the education setting. There's another group that is working on digital intelligence quotient, okay, based in Singapore, and they're looking at different factors that affect digital intelligence among children. So what would be the next steps for UNESCO? As I mentioned, we would like to work with different research groups and organizations to look into the details of the results that we got from the survey. And we'd also like to work on Digital Kids Asia Pacific, something complementary to the EU Kids Online that was done in Europe. Okay. We'd like to have it as a comparative cross-country research so that we can better understand the digital landscape among Asia Pacific children, so that we can guide governments on how to develop and implement policies and programs more effectively. And we are also working on policy guidelines for the education sector on fostering digital citizenship among the children. That concludes my presentation. If there are any research groups that are interested in joining us in this initiative, we'd very much like to work with you and collaborate with you on this. Thank you so much.